Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Manmohan Mitra. Before we go into this householder disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, let us quietly reflect on the immortal aspect that is within all of us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Does God listen to our prayers? Sri Ramakrishna, what are you saying? You will call on God and He will not listen? He is omnipresent and omniscient. How do you know that He does not listen to your prayers? You have no faith, so you are doubting Him. It's one of Manmohan Mitra's question to Sri Ramakrishna. And that has been rankling common humanity. Does God listen to our prayers? Oh, all of us have doubts. Even the best of us have doubts. It's natural to have doubts. He says, you have no faith. And saying, God is omnipresent and omniscient. Now these are words, saying omnipresent and omniscient. Oh my God. But it just is telling us that God listens to everything, not only what we pray, but what we do and everything. Yeah, that's frightening. No, we don't have to get frightened. Because that reality is a loving reality. It's not sitting in judgment. So here, we just need to have faith. And the second question, Sir, would you tell us how to increase a longing for God? Now, this is a question that's inevitable when you said, okay, you don't have faith and you doubt Him. And this has always been you can say, the fulcrum on where all religions stand. Oh, you don't have faith. You doubt Him. And it's always like that. So he will ask that subsequent question. Sri Ramakrishna replies with a smile. As hunger and thirst arise spontaneously, so does longing for God. Everything depends on time. Mere thinking cannot make a person hungry. In the same way, longing for God does not come simply by saying, let there be longing. Yearning is awakened in the mind automatically when a person feels the need for God. Now, this is important. When you feel the need to know the reality. First, the need. And secondly, he says that when you're done away with all the other mundane things, the things that are obstructing you from going to God, that when it's over, you get this longing, this yearning for God. there is a very fine aspect of the intelligence which is called dhi. Dhi, the word buddhi is intelligence, but there's a kind of a purified aspect of intelligence called dhi. The Gayatri mantra, the prayer is nothing but increase or awaken my dhi. So it is this dhi from the word buddhi that gives you that tremendous insight into the reality. This is extremely important. So you have a longing, and then this subtle aspect of the intelligence is awakened. And it gives us a kind of a tremendous conviction. Yes, God is. You can't prove it here, yet, not to yourself and not even to others, but you are convinced there is a reality. So these were the first two questions Manmohan Mitra puts. And Sri Ramakrishna says, people shed jugful of tears for their wives and children and money, and who weeps for God? He who longs for God will certainly see Him, certainly find Him. Imagine the conviction that Sri Ramakrishna is telling us this. You will certainly find Him. Cry to Him. Call on Him with a longing heart. You will see God. There's hope for all of us. And we know that, yes, like Manmohan Mitra, he was, as I say, just an ordinary devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. The word Manmohan Mitra. Now, we have two words here. Man is mind. Mohan is that which fascinates. It's not that he's got a fascinating mind, something, or his mind is very fascinating. No. Mohan is a word used to describe God. Fascinating or charming, that's the word. So it is God who draws your mind to Him. So his very name suggested that, yeah, his mind is being drawn by God. Because the only thing most beautiful and most charming is the reality. Oh yeah, a glimpse of it will throw you into bliss, waves of bliss. And that's what draws the mind. That's the meaning of Manmohan. Mitra. Mitra is ordinarily its friend, but Mitra is a name also of a Vedic god. The two gods, Mitra and Varuna, were always used together. Mitra. Very interestingly, in the ancient Persian religion called Zoroastrianism, there was a god called Mithras. Because those were those Indo-Aryan group of people. So they were the same, the gods were named similarly. So Mitra. And the Romans took some of their you can say, ideas, and there was a mystery, you can say, cult or a sect in ancient Rome called Mithraism. So it's the same word, Mitra. We don't need to get diverted, but then that was his name. Fascinating. So this was the devotee. One night, he was about 28, 27 or 28, where he has a dream. And in the dream, he sees a deluge. Now, the idea of a deluge is not only in the, you can say, Old Testament and the biblical literature, but it is found in all major cultures. Everyone speaks about the deluge, but that was a different deluge. Here, he sees in the dream saying, all the tall buildings of Calcutta, including the Octaloni monument, was swept away by the terrible current. Now this monument, today it's named Shahid Minar. That is the memorial for the, you can say, patriots. So that's about 28 feet? 48 meters, about 155 feet tall. So all the buildings, tall buildings in Calcutta, it was in colonial times, and not very tall buildings, not skyscrapers. But there was a huge deluge and it was sweeping everything away. And wherever, in whatever direction Manmohan Mitra looked, it was all covered with water. And he was being dragged by that current. So he says, where's my mother? Where are my wife and daughter and sisters? Immediately he says, I heard a voice. There is no one left in this world who is your own. All are dead. And he replies, then what's the use of my living? And the voice again says, suicide is a great sin. Then where shall I go? I don't find any human habitation. No one is alive in this world. All are dead. He says, when none is alive, then with whom shall I stay? And the voice replied, only they have survived from this deluge who have realized God. You will meet them very soon and live with them. That is another big hope. He replies, I see only water all around. What shall I eat? And the voice says, search beneath your heart. You will find food out there. And he says, I put my hand beneath my heart, and he found a piece of wood plank, which was helping him float in the current. I was surprised to witness the play of God. Now, it's the heart has been as if kept afloat, the heart of devotion, of faith and knowledge. He woke up with a start. And he woke up and he was kind of confused. And you know, when you wake up from a very deep, intense dream, you get your bearings right. It takes a few moments. And he cried out, where am I? Who am I? And then he sees his wife who was sleeping beside him. Who are you? And wife also was kind of dumbfounded. So what happened to you? When he kind of came back to the normal plane, he realized that he had seen a dream. It's a very intense dream. You know, Sri Ramakrishna says that spiritual dreams have a tinge of reality in them. Other dreams are just kind of churnings of the subconscious mind. Spiritual dreams are considered as kind of good omens. That same morning, he goes to see his cousin brother, Ramchandra Datta. This is fascinating how these guys are all related, Ramchandra Datta was his cousin. And if you remember, Ramchandra Datta, he also was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He was also the cousin brother of Swami Vivekananda. Ramchandra heard the dream that his cousin brother and friend related. And then he says, what you have seen is true. To tell you the truth, all beings are submerged in Maya. They are the living dead. There. Sage advice. So this Manmohan had read a little about, there was a saint in Dakshineshwar called Ramakrishna, and he was involved in this religious movement called the Brahma Samaj. So he had read about Sri Ramakrishna in their newsletters and even the newspapers like Indian Mirror, Sulabh Samachar and other newspapers. So he said, why don't we go to see Sri Ramakrishna? And Ramchandra, oh yes, sure, let's go. And along with another friend, they all go to Sri Ramakrishna. Now that's fascinating because when they arrived there, they took a kind of small country boat, more like a kind of a canoe, a little sophisticated canoe. And they traveled by, you can say, but the canoe came to Dakshineshwar, and he expected to see a monk. In India, the monk, oh my God, they come with all kind of fancy trappings at times. But Sri Ramakrishna was kind of not wearing any monkish clothes and just white clothes, and he was so, you can say, humble. And he's saying, I was taken by surprise. He thought he will be sitting on a kind of a tiger skin or a kind of a deer skin. And now that is not allowed, of course. And the police will say, where did you get this tiger skin? And, sitting on that, and then, shaven headed and ochre clothes and using the rosary, etc., etc. But he said, he looked at him, oh, something like this. It's simple. He made them sit on his bed. There were two beds, one small and a big, more like a couch. And he was thrilled because there was no kind of air about Sri Ramakrishna. He was very simple. Sri Ramakrishna kept on studying him. And the three of them, the three friends, spoke to him the entire day. They got a lot of their questions, as I said, answered. Some of the doubts dispelled. And they spent the entire day, returned in the evening to him, to their homes. Manmohan Mitra, he was born in 1851. And he was living not very far away from where Dakshineshwar, where Sri Ramakrishna lived, but on the opposite bank of the river, Ganges. So Calcutta was about 9 miles away. So they used to commute. He was staying in a place called Konnagar. It still exists, and it's very sacred, and the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, they all go for an annual festival out there. So his father was a physician, and he was very well, learned and pious person. He used to he was good, he had studied science and history, and so they had a house in Calcutta and they had a house in Konnagar. That's the two places. His mother was very pious and extremely devoted to the gods and the goddesses. And she was a deeply meditative person. So one time, a relative rather, wanted to see if Shama Sundari. Shama is the name of Kali, and Sundari is beautiful. The beautiful Kali. That was the name. So whether she's kind of trying to feign meditation, not really meditating. So she found her one day seated deeply absorbed in meditation, and that she put a scorpion near her, and to see whether she will jump up in fright. She didn't, and in fact she was oblivious. The scorpion just ran across her body and left without stinging. So this Manmohan, he wasn't a very brilliant student, average student. He studied in Konnagar and then shifted to a school in Calcutta, a Calcutta Hindu school. But in those days, they used to give marks for good conduct, you know. I don't know whether these days, at least when we were young, said, how is conduct good conduct? I remember, I don't know why. You should get marks for good conduct. So he, through his uncle, there was an uncle, he was acquainted with the Brahmo Samaj. Brahmo Samaj was a kind of a more like a socio-religious movement, and it attracted a lot of, you can say, people, mainly the intelligentsia. But with everything, things split up. So there was a split between the old and the newcomers. And so Keshav Chandra Sen had done the new branch, or the breakaway group was called Navavidan, that is the new dispensation. And Debendranath Tagore was the Adi Brahmo Samaj, the first. So he was acquainted with both of them. His grandfather, seeing that he was so interested in these Brahmos services, and he used to meditate, etc., he got afraid that this guy might become a kind of, he'll abandon his family and become a monk. We have these crazy ideas that if you are devoted to religion, you will abandon everything and go. There's no question of abandoning anything. So he got him married up. He was just 17. Married in the sense, it's more like a betrothal. You're betrothed to the girl. That's another long story, why it happened like that. And then he took, his father took him to what is called Dhaka, in present Bangladesh. That was part of the contiguous Indian territory of Bengal. And they lived there for some time, and then they returned in 1873, and his father died of a heart attack. Now, he was the only son, Manmohan, and he had 3 sisters. Now, all 3 of them, plus, and later, another fascinating connections. You find one of the sister, the middle sister, Vishveshwari, she had married Swami Brahmananda, Rakal. So you get all these kind of networked, these guys are coming towards Sri Ramakrishna. They've already been kind of earmarked, as it were. And so he had to look after them. And that's the reason why he dropped out of college and started looking out for a job. He finally managed to get a kind of clerical job in the colonial kind of government. And there it was. He had a daughter who passed away at a very young age. He was 7 years old, and that was a rude shock. First, his father had died, and second, his daughter. And he used to go to that cremation ground where she was cremated, and he used to sit down for hours and hours. His mother saw that this is not going to lead any one of us anywhere. So she says, you shift to Calcutta. So that will allay some of that grief, the association, etc. So he did that. They came to Calcutta. And now that he was part of that Brahmo Samaj, they had a funny way of meditation. They should take a kind of a one-stringed instrument. It's called ektara. They used to kind of play it and meditate on it. Sometimes chant the Om also. So he's saying, I didn't know anything about prayer. Saying I used to use all those superfluous adjectives in front of the word Brahman and thought he was praying. So he's saying in the bombastic words. It meant nothing. Saying I never felt anything. Then he realized that it is only a pure mind, a mind imbued with faith and knowledge, that helps one to see the reality. Of course, if you have faith, you will have knowledge, because as the Bhagavad Gita says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. A person who has faith attains knowledge. So this is how he came to that dream brought him to Sri Ramakrishna. And of course, he had these bereavements were there, and slowly. So after that first visit, where he asked, does God listen to our prayers, etc. Yeah. And Sri Ramakrishna in his gospel, which we have every Wednesday reading, is constantly insisting, God listens to sincere prayers. But you should not ask for frivolous things, in the sense of, oh God, I've got a stomach ache and I've got a headache, I've got this. Go for something big. Go for purity, go for love, go for knowledge, go for the realization. That is kind of... So on the second visit to Sri Ramakrishna, he decided, I'll visit Sri Ramakrishna every Sunday. On the second visit, he said, some people say God is formless. Others say he is with form. And again, some people call him Krishna or Shiva or Kali, etc. What is the real nature of God? Could you tell us? So these are the questions that they all kind of bubble within every human heart. Sri Ramakrishna replies, he smiles, God is sometimes this form and sometimes formless. Now this is something, that has confounded philosophers. If God is with form, how can that same God be formless? How can something which is formless have form? Or how can that which is formless have form? There he says, and again, God is beyond both form and formlessness. It's even more better. They say, God, yeah, he cannot be grasped. God cannot be grasped by the ordinary mind or just speech. So God is with form, God is without form, and God is beyond both form and formlessness. then God is all pervading. And it's difficult to ascertain God's real nature. That is even more, is throwing us into greater and greater, you can say, difficulties. Because what happens, the human mind likes to have a clear grasp of things. If it can't, then what happens is there is a kind of a restlessness. The moment you know it, the mind becomes calm. When you don't know a thing, mind becomes restless. And that's why they say, people say, oh, my mind is restless. Yeah, read some books and do something. Because it is ignorance that makes the mind restless. The moment you have knowledge about a particular thing, the mind becomes calm. But here he says, just as there is nothing to compare gold with except gold, so there is nothing equal to God. And then he uses the scriptural side of argument. God is the cause of all objects, as well as the subtle mind and the intellect. That is, God is the cause of this gross world as well as the subtle and the causal worlds. For example, the same substance in its solid form is ice, in its liquid form is water, and in its gaseous form is vapor. Of course, we have now plasma and all these things, higher and higher states of matter. But the explanation is, it's the same element that is in 3 states. It can be more than 3 states. According to the mental attitude of the spiritual aspirant, God manifests himself. This is very important. I remember we had a monk who later was posted to the Netherlands. And before going, he's saying, hey, Swami, let's come and sit down and tell us some jokes. He was kind of, I still remember, he's laughing, he's saying, hey, we make our own jokes, we make our own worlds. And it struck me, I said, we make our own world and we make our own jokes also. And we can grasp reality according to your own mind. We make our own conceptions of God. You give people a set conception of God and you see the readings are different by different people. Everybody will read that very conception of God differently. That is interesting. So he says, Sri Ramakrishna, a man of knowledge, Jnani, experiences God as all-pervading, as formless, like space. And a devotee who likes forms perceives God with a particular form. So if you sincerely want to know the real nature of God, meditate on him in solitude. Have patience. Surrender yourself and pray. When the right time comes, you will see. So he gave him a classic, you can say, explanation that Sri Ramakrishna gives. There are times when, for those particular persons, he once says, he takes a fan. Oh, those hand fans, like those old hand fans, like the Japanese kind of fans you have. They're made of palm leaves. In India, you can read. He takes that and says, Sri Ramakrishna, I have seen God directly, like see this thing. So at times he has directly spoken. He also in the gospel you'll find, I saw God. For 3 days, I talked to God. And he came, he even cracked my finger. I would like to have that also. So it depends on the person's intellectual and spiritual level. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell them that appropriate, you can say, teachings meant for. And this is not a final teaching. You see, what I wanted to say that at times you are saying, yes, I have seen. So then he's saying when the right time comes, you will see him. And you see his name itself was Manmohan. That is, the Lord has been attracting his mind slowly and slowly. When you are faced with these perplexing questions and about existence, what am I, who am I, what is my role, what is my destiny, what is this thing? These are the first indicators that slowly your mind is now being attracted to that reality. It's like a kind of a magnet, it's drawing you. That's the time when you start questioning things. And if you maintain that momentum, the intensity grows and grows and grows till you finally come down. So one of the meanings of the word hurry is that which attracts us to Him, God. Why does it happen? Grace. Now again, grace is a loaded word. It means many things to many things. Slowly in you can see a kind of a common thread, a common narrative running through all these householder disciples, that God was gracious. And that is another indication. You will feel that grace. Things start happening to you, externally, internally. Things start breaking inside. Some old crystallized things that you held on to give way. So that is grace. Manmohan, then he says, we get peace when we feel the presence of God in our hearts. Otherwise, mere intellectual understanding of God and atheism are the same. Well, as I said, we get peace when we feel the presence of God in our hearts. So I was speaking about that that purified form of intelligence. It is through that you feel the presence of God. It's like you feel the presence not outside. Yeah, you can feel the presence outside also. You feel it inside. You know for certain, it's an indubitable kind of conviction there in it, that you are not alone, that there is someone with you and someone who loves you. This is, it's subjective, of course, but then it is so strong, it never leaves you. Or you may forget it now and then, but then it's there always. So Sri Ramakrishna says, in the beginning one should move forward on the spiritual path, holding on to an initial faith. That is, faith in the words of the Guru and the scriptures. Then one attains direct perception. There are two kinds of faith. One, initial faith, and then the real faith. That faith which comes directly from perceiving that I have seen it. You know, before the final vision, you have plenty of pre-visions. You go through many milestones. And as you go through these milestones, you will know that I am in the right direction. When you see a milestone, you're driving, okay, I'm on the right track. These are indicative of the goal. So he's saying, so Sri Ramakrishna says, be steadfast in the first one, and then you will see God. So be steadfast in the initial faith. Now we've talked about faith. Like even the Bible is a faith, even like the mustard seed. It's small, tiny, but it grows. Faith can move mountains. That's what it is. Actually, it can move mountains. You don't move mountains, but then figuratively it's understood that it is so strong, it can make the impossible possible. And even the scriptures say, as a person's faith is, so is the person. The person is determined by the faith. Swami Vivekananda was very clear, you better have faith in yourself first. That will be good. You know, we have faith in hundreds of things, but we don't have faith in ourselves. So Swami Vivekananda, he recommended having faith in ourselves. Okay. We stop here for questions. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay. We have only salutations and pranams. Yes.
You talked about milestones, like pre-visions of God before you see that picture. So what kind of, if you could just elaborate a little bit more, so what kind of pre-visions? Yeah.
The question was, before the final vision, you always have the pre-visions or these milestones. What type? Oh my God. Depends on the aspirant. If the person is an aspirant of yoga, we will have different types of these pre-visions. Because the person, he has not, if the person has not started with the idea of a personal God, so that person will have these kind of pre-visions, but differently. A person who is traversing the path to devotion will have different sets of pre-visions, indicative. Then you have the people who take up the path of knowledge. They will have different. But one thing is there, Sri Ramakrishna says, as you go towards the ocean, first you will hear, from a distance you will be able to feel the cool breeze. And as you get closer and closer, you'll feel the cool breeze getting more and more cooler. Then you will hear the roar of the ocean from a distance. And as you go closer, the roar becomes louder. Finally, you reach the shore and you touch the water. So at every stage, you will know that you are getting closer. So the best indication is you become unselfish, you become loving, you become kind, your personality undergoes a change. That is, you can say, the external, you can say, signs. The person is going to, you become more and more sattvic. Your dependence on outside things becomes minimal. And then you will have dreams, spiritual dreams of various types, so etc., etc. Okay, you get the idea. Okay. What is the proper way to pray? Oh, thank you. Oh, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, pray like a child. When he's praying, the, the prayer is simple and there are no set rules and no set prayers. Just pray from the heart. God listens to the prayer from the heart. You kind of recite these numerous prayers and say, oh Lord, I've prayed so much the entire day, I've recited and chanted all these things. That's not coming from the heart. Pray from the heart. You know, approach God with that simplicity of a child. Don't ask for anything. Just like you, the child is kind of feeling afraid. It wants to go back to its mother. What does it do? So that's the way. So that's the best way to pray. And also, you know, what happens is, if you pray for others, somehow those prayers are answered much faster than you praying for yourself. This is a universally kind of accepted fact. When you pray for others, your prayer becomes more powerful than praying for yourself. Oh, so they say the power of prayer. I had given a talk in San Diego. So somebody put up the, you can see info. Is faith helpful to have deeper meditation? Oh yes, there's no doubt. You must have faith in what you do. Even the simplest thing otherwise will not be possible. So you must have faith. Faith will concentrate the mind and make it enter into that flow state. So faith is extremely important. Like as I said, kept on saying, it is more an internal, you can say, attitude. There's a tremendous, you cling on to your powers. And Swami Vivekananda said, everybody has within infinite powers, infinite blessedness. We don't have that faith in this. So we stop here for today. There are no questions more. Sunday, of course, we are going to speak about to be a light unto yourselves. Atma Deepo Bhava. That's the Buddha's final message to humanity. Be a light unto yourself. So I will be speaking on that. Tomorrow is the monthly retreat, every second Saturday at Arlington Tapovan Center from 1 to 5. All are welcome. So we'll have guided meditation, we'll have talks, we have silent meditation, and it's going to be on the subject of silence. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Peace, peace, peace.